Hello everybody, it's Tuesday night and welcome to Rallying with Group B's virtual, although it's real, so it's online. It's our Motor Club night, it's Tuesday night, it's 8 o'clock. It's the first Motor Club night that we've ever done. Let me quickly introduce you to our superstar guest and some of the boys, because we have got a very exciting lineup of people to be chatting with us tonight. Look at all those superstars on there. And we've got, as well as the superstars, we've got one of the most successful, in fact, the most successful rally driver as far as British championships are concerned, and that's Mark Higgins. Say hello, Mark.
Hello, Mark.
That'll do for you. And then we've got the most successful European rally driver for 50 years, the young Chris Ingram, current European rally champion outright. Say hello, Chris.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well.
Fantastic. And then if I could ask him to unmute himself, we've also got a superstar who's going to work out how to unmute himself because I accidentally muted him. And we've got Charles from Silverstone Auctions, who's going to talk about car auctions, and in particular, the one that's coming this Saturday, because Charles is in charge of selling the Peugeot T16, plus lots of other things. And we're going to have a behind-the-scenes insight to what happens at car auctions. Say hello, Charles.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. And firstly, I better apologise for not knowing there was a dress code, so I've got the wrong colour shirt on. So everyone else is in dark blue, but if I'd known, I'd have dressed accordingly. But looking forward to this. It's very new with this concept, so have some fun, and thank you for having us.
Great. And one thing we are going to talk about with Charles is this online auction that we're doing is the very first time it's been done by Silverstone, so that the reaction to the current situation, so that's going to be really interesting, a real insight. Quickly, Rally Boys, say hello, Mark. You can wave if you want. Yeah, go on, say hello.
Hello, Mike.
Hiya. And then Quizmaster.
Quizmaster? That's okay, I'll go with that then. Hello, everyone.
And Mick's going to be doing some quizzes tonight. Keep you on your toes. Tim Foster.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Rallying Group B's virtual motor club. It should be a very interesting evening tonight. Just like to say personally, from being the director of the group, thank you very much to people like Mark Higgins, Chris and Charles for coming on board. And this is, well, our first real virtual motor club. So thank you very much.
Jason. He has to work out how to do mute. Jack, say hello. You're in charge of comments and any feedback. So if anybody's got any questions out there that they'd like to ask the guys during this broadcast, then Jack's monitoring the Facebook site and he'll pass on your messages. Jack?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. Obviously, the first one was a great success. We had over 1,200 people in views, so hopefully this one goes well. Like you said, people can get involved, get interactive. If you want to know anything from these guys, you know, ask away. So, yeah.
Spot on. Thank you, Jason. Quickly say hello.
Yeah, hello, everybody. I hope it turns into a good night, and I hope we have many more in the future.
Great. And we are allowed to drink on this. We're all over 18. And the yard arm has swung, so we're allowed to drink. So cheers, everybody. I'm going to start with talking to Mark Higgins because he's a busy boy and he's got to go. However, I'm going to start, not that Mark knows anything about this, but a little bit of an insight to what Mark's up to these days.
Is arming faster than we can respond. Where's 007?
The world's moved on, Commander Bond.
You 00.
You get in my way, I will put a bullet in your knee. The one that works.
I thought you two would get along.
Name? Bond. James Bond.
So you're not dead?
Hello, Q. I've missed you.
You gave up everything for her. When her secret finds its way out, it'll be the death of you.
What is it?
You don't know what this is?
Bond. License to kill. History of violence. I could be speaking to my own reflection. Only your skills die with your body. Mine will survive long after I'm gone.
History isn't kind to men who play God.
Yeah, Mark, so I'm going to ask you a few questions. You can tell by the theme I'm talking about Bond and films and things that you're up to in the film world rather than the rallying world. Because there's an underlying theme for tonight's interviews and chat, which is classic cars, what makes a car special, if you've got any memorabilia, and the link with selling cars in auction, especially something like the Bond cars and the ones there. So not that you're directly involved with that, but just from a film point of view, which bits of driving did you actually do with that?
It's quite good to see that, Kevin. It seems such a long time ago now, because that was meant to be launched on the 2nd of April. And obviously we're now down in this lockdown. So that's really made it, it feels like the film's been out already, but we don't even know when they're going to release the film. And we did that last in October. So on that, we managed to drive a 4x4 up in Scotland for the 4x4 chase. I can't say what the car is, because I don't think they've shown what I was in. And then we were Bond again driving the DB5, which was quite a special car. It was made to look exactly like the DB5, the real one, but it was a little bit special. It was almost a kit car underneath, but loads of fun. Matera in Italy was great. And yeah, it was good 7 weeks in Italy, playing around with lots of people around, really close. And we can't do that anymore.
Yeah, we forgot about those times, didn't we? So on these shoots, I mean, I know, and I'm asking you some of these questions, how much of the driving do you do, and what's your actual involvement in the films these days?
When we do a chase, we pretty well do all the driving. We'll do a little bit of work with Daniel on the pull-ups and so forth. But we'll get the actresses. Daniel will be there. We'll basically go nearly all the driving, to be honest. Sometimes you'll drive from the roof of the car, so they'll be looking at Daniel so he can concentrate on doing his acting, but we're actually still physically driving from the car. I didn't do so much pod driving in this one, but we've done that on other vehicles. We can drive hanging out the front of the car, hanging on the side, hanging on the roof, and you try and replicate the scene the best you can, but you'll always do it again in a proper car from an external shot, and then they'll cut to the internal shot using the pod cars, which is a bit weird. And what's that? I mean, just to bring it back to stuff you've probably forgot about. I can remember I've known you for years, and you're a good pal of mine. And a really exciting moment for me was to go to a James Bond launch, and then on the end credits to see Mark Higgins up there. It's probably one of the proudest personal things that I've seen, because I never imagined that I'd see in a Bond film somebody that I actually knew up there in the credits. You've done a few Bond films now and lots of other things in film work. Has that star status gone, and is it now our graft? I know they rely on you as far as the positioning of the car and pulling off the stunt, and you're allowed to have input in it now, which is, must be really cool. But do you ever forget how lucky you are to be doing it, or, has it become work? I think some of the film work has, Kev, but when you actually, the Bond one is the one to do, really. I mean, you look back as a kid and you went to the movies, and that was a big film to watch, when we were growing up. And to see the Bond toys were always cool, weren't they? To get a Bond car, that was the car you played with. And to ever think you'd be driving the Bond car, it's still, I have to pinch myself. I'm very lucky. It's a great experience. The people that you're working with, because it is a really strange world. It's a bit of an unreal world at some point times. And often what you're doing the driving wise, it's very, very straightforward in terms of driving. As a driver, that's easy enough, sliding a car around, but it's doing it when you've got cameras, people,
wanting it frame by frame at this point to come in at this point, and that's what makes it difficult. And often from the outside, it can the straightforward parts are the difficult parts. So it is a challenge, and you do get adrenaline like you do on the start of a rally stage when you get in the countdown, when they're getting 3, 2, 1 action, and you've got a big gag and probably 10 other cars coming in at you from different angles, which you've got to get the timing very precise, otherwise it's a big mess, and you're the one that's going to get shouted at. You know, the adrenaline does get going, and it is a different buzz, but I still love my rallying.
But interesting now, you said you still get shouted at. So have you now got control? Who actually sets up the you know, there's 10 other drivers. How does that work? Who organises that stuff? Who coordinates it? You have a stunt coordinator who coordinates all the stunts you're doing. We obviously sometimes things don't work, so you get together and you talk about how you can make it better and what may. But we work as a team. It's very much a team. I mean, sometimes the car chase may include 1 or 2 cars, but sometimes there could be 50 to 100 cars involved. So there's such a lot going on. And although you may be the lead car in the chase, you're just a little pawn that's part of it. So, you know, it's very easy to sometimes think, I'm James Bond here, but really, you're just another driver. Well, probably that's enough about Bond, but that brings us, and I'm picking on Bond. I know you've actually probably done much more dangerous stunts. I've seen various things, you know, over the years you've done, and some pretty horrific ones. So the Bond stuff might be relatively easy, but I know you're doing the dangerous end of it all as well. The question really that I wanted to get to is, you're around what become iconic cars, if not classics, because they're in films, they're going to be super famous. Is there any cars that you've been working with that you'd really like to own? If you could, which car would you like to own? And I know you've run a small production company and you do actually get the opportunity to keep some of the cars, or you're involved with supplying special cars as well for film. So just give me a quick, if you could get a car, which one would you want it to be?
I think it's always got to be a Bond car, to be honest, for potential value in the future as much as anything else, but they're very iconic. And the value of them, when you don't, the DB5, for example, I mean, it's probably about £5 million for the proper one that you drive, but you do definitely have to get in it and think of it as a prop. If you start thinking that this is a very valuable one-off car, nobody else can get in it or drive it, you'd just be jelly. So, but the DB5 is a lovely car, especially the stunt car we had on the film at this particular time. But we had some cars out on a film called Murder Mystery. There were some Ferrari Testarossas. We managed to actually get a couple of those for the company, which we're in the process of going to be selling soon. I actually do have the Rolls Royce from Spectre as well that was in the desert. So that's quite a cool thing to have. And hopefully that'll be my pension one day.
Right, I've got you now. I didn't know whether you'd talk about it, but the Ferraris, tell me basically what you've done there. It's a film set, it's a famous film, there's got some famous people in it. They have 3 Ferraris to use within the film, and one way or another, your production company ends up with all 3 of them after the film. Now, I love the backstory to that. I think it's really exciting. So just tell us a bit about what the cars are and who was driving them, like what's, you know, tell me the story.
Yeah, it was a Jennifer Aniston film out in Lake Garda, and I actually didn't drive the Ferraris. I was the guy chasing in the police car, and one of the cars got crashed on the film. It got bumped, and big panic. They thought we better buy 2 more cars because they were going to build some replica cars to do all the stunt work. But because the first car got crashed, massive money. They went to England, bought these cars. They came over and they never used them. They sat there. They did a couple of pretty shots when the actresses and actors get in and out, and that was it. And then at the end of it, they're left with a load of cars, one a bit damaged, a load of spares, and it was our company that we were involved in thought it'd be a good idea to maybe try and get hold of them and get them all tidied up and one day let them go.
That is a really interesting story. So now I'm going to bring Charles in, who might be able to help you with the value of those cars, because he's a professional auctioneer involved with Silverstone Auctions. So Charles, what would you think the value of anything to do with Bond? You know, does it make a difference with that type of, prestige is the wrong word, but history?
It's very interesting you've brought me in at this point. And listening to Mark's comments and conversations and what he does, and I didn't realise he was involved with James Bond. You may not have looked through the catalogue for what's going through on Saturday, apart from allegedly an old T16. There's a Land Rover Defender from Spectre going through. So one of the James Bond cars, I think there was, Mark, if he was involved with the film, may be able to tell me, but I think there were 6 done for the film. Some did the action shots and some didn't. And one of the ones we have got, or the one we've got going through on Saturday, didn't do any action shots. So it is like brand spanking new. The value on that at the moment, the estimate we put on it is £200,000 to £240,000. And again, Mark might be able to help me here, but it's limited to about 20 miles an hour.
Okay,
So,
I can interrupt. Mark's had to sign a disclaimer that he can't talk about things like that. So he'll skirt around the subject, but we understand if you can't answer, Mark.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking more of his just accruing his pension, that he might like to get involved with doing a bit of bidding on Saturday.
It's quite interesting. We had those Defenders. We actually used those in Solden. They were used in on the Spectre film.
Yeah.
And talking about Defenders, I drove the Defender as Miss Moneypenny in full wig and costume at the time.
Well, you don't look any different now.
Skyfall, yeah. I'll show you a picture one day. But I need a drink as well first. But yeah, they were interesting cars. And there's always a car, which is what they call a pretty car, purely for driving in the studio. They'll use it in the studio, or they might do a pull-up in it. And those cars sometimes are limited to very low power.
Just a final one on that, Mark, because I'm going to let you go. Thanks for your time, but it is just a quick, brief meeting and see how all this technology works. Just tell us what those Ferraris are. I'm not expecting Charles to value them straight away, but they are for sale. So what are they?
They're just Testarossas. One's done 24,000. They're all right-hand drive, which is a little bit rarer. And one's a Mono Special, which is the damaged one, which has got the single wing mirror, which is probably the most valuable of all the cars, but not the nicest at the moment. But I don't think anything ever has the same sort of value as Bond. Bond is always crazy prices, and
yeah,
any film car that's been in a very iconic film makes it more valuable.
From Charles, from your point of view, when does a car ever lose money because it's been in a film? So, you know, that one, a car that's not very famous, but still has a link to a celebrity owner, or a link to a little bit of history. Is there a certain point where it's definite, or is it just completely random? You know, that
I don't think you can say a car, because it's been in a film, always is going to be worth more money. I think it depends which films, who starred in the films and everything else. Certainly James Bond cars, yes. I mean, a DB5 now, if you've got an original James Bond DB5, you're into telephone numbers. If you can buy one, and they're in collections and they disappear and they very rarely come on the market. So it's an interesting concept, but because a car has just purely been in a film, it doesn't always enhance its value, but it may make it more desirable from some people's point of view. It just depends. There are certain people into certain things for whatever reasons.
I love my Ferrari, Kevin, because Jennifer Aniston sat in it. That's the only reason I bought it.
Yeah, well, yes.
Yeah, but it also sounded like there's a deal to be done there, Mark. We can negotiate you down. Before I let you go, people have been listening, and Jack apparently has got some questions from the Facebook site. Fire away, Jack.
Yeah, I just got a question from Sid Wall, just for Mark Higgins. That's all before he goes. I know he's on a rush. His question is, he doesn't get angry watching football, rallying like he did with football. But in 2001, when Ford withdrew you and signed from the RWGB after what turned out to be a not so serious accident, what was the reaction like inside the team at the time after the manager obviously admitted he made a huge cock-up? What was the reaction in the team at that time?
Wow, I remember that day, and I remember being told that in the motorhome before the final stage. We had the one spectator stage to do on that night, and we were told we were being withdrawn. I actually was in tears. it was my big break because we'd had foot and mouth, so we never got to drive at all apart from that one rally. And yeah, even Malcolm had to tell me here was the instructions from above, and that was the start of things starting to progress. Driving a World Rally car for the first time, but I'm glad you remembered that. That's a good question. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, as we know, you're a big part of rallying with Group B, and it's great to have you as a member and everything that you do. Carry on being my mate, and we'll catch up to you soon. Thanks for your time tonight, because I know you had a lot to do with your building work. And I think actually, I'm just going to introduce Chris a little bit, because Chris is going to be next in the interview. And the one thing I can say is Chris Ingram, great driver, is only ever apparently taken tuition from one other driver, and that's you.
That's very good.
I've tried a little bit, but I'm just going to introduce Chris now. You're off mute, Chris. Anything that you'd like to say with Mark? I mean, the one thing we can say is me and Mark were chatting to you a couple of years ago, and we did wonder whether or not you could ever win the European Championship outright, because to achieve that was going to be a massive feat. So I'm sure Mark's as proud of you as I am that you did manage to achieve it financially and obviously in the way that you did. But yeah, I'll just let you two champions talk together. Mark, you might have a question for Chris. Chris, you might have a question for Mark, but we'll start with Chris.
Good to see you, Mark, after so long. I think the last time we were in a rally car together, I was about 18 and a complete dope. So it's good to see you again, and hopefully you'll be back doing some rallying in the UK or Europe soon.
Yeah, well, to be honest, we were planning to do a few rallies this year before I get too old. I still miss it big time, but no, you've had a great time, mate. It's really, really good to see you. And it's
Cheers, Mark.
Where you go from now, isn't it? That's the hard thing with all this stuff at the moment. And when things are going so well and this coronavirus has put a stop on everything, it's a massive disappointment and interruption for motorsport as much as anything else. I mean, before I obviously go to everyone, I want to wish everybody a safe and healthy few months, and hopefully we get this thing buzzed off and we get back to normal again the best we can, so we can get on with what we love in motorsport and cars and so forth. But yeah, no, Chris, it's been great to watch what you've been doing, mate, and I really hope it continues going upwards the way it is at the moment.
Cheers, Mark. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mark, just before you go, sorry to butt in, Kevin, but just back to the Jack probably wouldn't have asked this question, but I think it's quite relevant from the banter from the greats, if I can call them that. Messaging from the great Ryan Champion of all people. Question for Chris, just before Mark goes, and I'm sure he'll see the funny side of this. How much faster than Mark Higgins are you, Chris?
I'm not. I might be one day.
Great answer.
He's a lot faster than me at the moment, so don't worry.
Thank you, Mark, very much for coming on. We're much appreciated from rallying with Group B. Hope everything goes really well. We're really keen to see you out again rallying very soon.
No, it's great to be involved, and hopefully we'll come back again in a month or so. We've got a bit more time, and great to see this working the way it is for Zoom and so forth. And good luck to everyone, and look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
Great. Cheers, Mark. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Kev.
So I set up a virtual rally challenge in association with Motorsport News, who are doing a weekly report on it, and we've had 4 rounds so far, which was the first championship as such. Monte Carlo, Finland, Greece and Scotland, all sponsored by my real life sponsors. And it's just been unbelievable. We've had almost 3,000 people enter, some of the best rally gamers in the world, but also the likes of Matt Edwards, British champion, Andrea Crugnola, Italian champion, some really top drivers from all over the world, real life rally drivers, competing, some unbelievably talented gamers. So it's been amazing, and I've spent the last month flat out training really for it. And you know, when I'm actually doing it, the nerves are almost the same as real life. So it's been really good training and something to aim for and keep me sharp.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got a serious side to it, and I think that's been around for a few years. But how I saw this evolve, which became fascinating, and I know Tim Foster's got some from an older person's point of view, you know, our take on it. And really what started to happen is just how serious if you're in the championship and the way that you're playing the game, rather than just going flat out and crashing, don't matter, just refix everything. The one thing that the way you do in the championship that's very addictive is that if you crash because you go just a little bit too fast, you're sort of out of the game. You're not going to win. So, and that's just like rallying, you know, you can't afford to make a mistake. So I've started to appreciate that you do get very nervous and excited at relatively slow speeds. So it's become, through the competition element of it, very similar to real life, because there's pressure, unlike when you play the game by yourself and you just flat out, you don't care if you crash. So is that a fair comment? I mean, are you really genuinely now getting to be panicky and upset if you crash, Chris?
That's actually really good point, because I've obviously been training a lot for it and trying to learn the stages, and even the setup, the suspension setup on the game, the effects you can actually change a lot. So it's honestly been unbelievable. But the finish rally had a barrel roll and got a double puncher, and even though I've got the damage turned on fairly low, so you can get away with a barrel roll, I was absolutely gutted to have a double puncher and be down in 60th overall, because I was so, you know, determined to get in the top 10 on every round. And then in Greece, I finished 4th out of 3,000 odd people, and the top 3 guys are renowned as like the best drivers on the game. So it was like winning. It was a great feeling, and I know that I've been playing the game for days to try and get on that pace. And it is, you know, people think it's just a game, but the techniques are the same. And you, like you said, you've got to stay on the road, you've got to carry speed. The games are so realistic now, and that's why if you look at Formula One, it's such a great tool.
Yeah, and I can see the serious side, especially just appreciating the nature of it. I'm still not convinced, and I don't think I ever will be convinced that it's the answer to training. I think there's a lot more to real life, but it certainly gives you a good example. And I'm going to ask Tim in a minute to give his comments. But I saw my 10-year-old son throw the towel in because he got a punch and he couldn't get going again. And whilst he went off in a strop, I realised that probably was the best lesson he'd ever learnt on a game, because he had to deal with his own anger and disappointment. So for that, I can now bring Tim Foster in, because he's got a similar, a bit like Zach at 10 was in a strop. Tim got in a right strop the other day. So tell us about your disappointments, Tim.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, it's so frustrating, the game. You put in so much time. I understand where Chris is coming from. It's so realistic, you know, the setup, from being involved with rallying for many, many years, the setup of the cars is so realistic, the driving of them is so realistic. If you were to put yourself in a full motion simulator, one thing or another, it would be the real thing, to be honest. It's very, very, very close to that. There's other elements that are obviously nowhere near, but like Chris said, the competitive element of it, certainly when you get involved with the championships, and these people are real people. So sometimes, because you're in a situation where these real situations where you're not necessarily knowing these people, but they're public figures, you know who they are, and you're competing against them. And they're not just virtual people that the game's chucked in there. So that's quite good. But my short story is there is an event that's going on at the moment. We're doing Chris's. My 2 boys, James and Jack, do it as well. We're very competitive, and we get very, very competitive as well. And they quite often beat me, but that's the nature of the beast. But yeah, I did a small rally which was based on the Roger Albert Clark rally, which was over 4 days and lots of different stages and lots of different stage miles, and they set the pressure to sort of very, very difficult, very hard difficulty, and very limited servicing, very little, very poor weather conditions in the night, one thing. So it was exactly like a real RAC rally, if you will. And I put some really good times in, and eventually I did really, really well. Just day-to-day goings on. I mean, I don't know how, at the moment we're all in lockdown, not many of us are working in the sense, and I don't know how, it's a bit like, I suppose it's a bit like being retired. I don't know how I don't know how I find time to work, when I go back to work. But just through day-to-day things, I eventually got to a point where I had only an hour to complete the last day. So I'd spent 4 days doing this rally, practicing, doing all sorts of stuff. The full trip. I've been and done the Manx International and not spent as much time, wrecking and doing all the rest of it. And Chris will appreciate this. So I eventually get into the rally, and I'm trying to, and I'm doing all right. And I finished 24th. So there's that much banter going on with my boys, that I decided, and I know it's getting a bit close to the deadline of the close of the event. And I'm sat there as smug because I beat them both. And I'm sat there and I take this picture, this screenshot, this picture of the times, because if you lose that, if you click through it, for example, then basically you've lost the time as such as far as the picture's concerned. So I'm going through all that extremes, blah, blah. Then I clicked continue, and it came up and said, the game has ended. I'm sorry, you're OTL. 4 days, solid days of doing this rally. I finished the stage with an absolute corking time and finished it really well, and then ended up going OTL just by not clicking the button in time. So yeah, it can be very frustrating, but massive fun. It's been great, and I can understand why so many people jumped on the bandwagons. I know there's a lot of events now that are on the dirt game that are coming about, and it'll make it very interesting.
A couple of people have obviously put in questions to you, Chris. Somebody's asked, would you ever be able to run a BRC WRC2 combo like the likes of Reece Yates? Is that something that you could possibly do in the future, or?
Yeah, to be honest, I've been trying to break into WRC2 for a long time, and it's the budget that's holding me back. Like the dream would be to do WRC2, ERC, BRC, every rally, I possibly could, but it's just all comes down to money. And had an amazing opportunity to compete in the ERC for the last 4 or 5 years. So that's where I've been, but now I really want to try and get into the WRC2. But at the moment, the British Championship's I'm not really that bothered about going back there at the moment. I'm trying to get as far to the top as I can, but maybe one day I'll return and try and win that, because I just want to win as many titles as I can. Yeah,
I totally understand that. Just another question that's also coming. Somebody's put, it was great to see Chris at this year's Race Retro and looked like he sampled a few different cars. Will you visit again next year?
Definitely. I'll hopefully visit every year, possibly can. I need to get a go in the Quattro next time, though.
Yeah. Just expand on that. Do you want to tell, obviously, some people might have not been there, what sort of cars did you sample this year, and what were your best cars?
Yeah, so I think it's probably the 4th time I've been. The first time I went, I was so lucky to meet Russell Brooks, which was one of my all-time highlights, and that led to Russell actually helping me secure sponsorship to keep me rallying from Andrews. So that's an amazing memory. But every year I've had the chance to drive some amazing machines, including Kevin's 205 T16, which is up for sale. And this year I drove so many cars. 306 Maxi from Ryan Enyon. I drove all sorts. It was great fun. And it's amazing to sample all the old classic stuff, because it's just so different compared to what I've been driving the last few years.
Chris, if you don't mind, if I can just chip in, as we're selling Kevin's T16, hopefully for him at the weekend, you obviously, as you just mentioned, had the chance to drive it at Race Retro. When it was delivered to us and I collected it, we wanted to do a photo shoot and a video, and I drove it a few hundred yards, no more, and it was hard work going that far. And I had a few words with Kevin afterwards, because I don't think he was too pleased I'd even got in it and started it, but clearly something we had to do, which wasn't a problem. But driving it that distance, how did you really find it? Because it's seriously hard work from an outsider. But for you, it's probably totally alien to what you do day to day, being in something of that age. Was it an interesting drive?
Yeah, exactly. Just like you said, it's such a raw beast. Easily the most powerful car I've ever driven, and physically so demanding for the drivers. I've got no idea how they did rallies for a week long in Corsica with no power steering at those speeds. I've just got massive respect for those drivers.
Absolutely.
But there's so much about the modern cars as well that's amazing, and you've got to appreciate both of them.
Can see it. This is it.
To anybody that doesn't understand what that video is, just tell us what we were looking at there.
Yeah, so it's the a brand new racing series launch called Extreme E, which is by the same organisers of Formula E. So electric SUVs, there's going to be 5 rounds all over the world in areas affected by climate change to help raise awareness to those places. And I've been invited onto the drivers program, which I'm not quite sure what's going to happen with it yet, because there's some big names in there, but hopefully I'll get the chance to get a seat in the new championship and be a part of it, because it's quite exciting. It's electric, which is people have different views on, but I think it could be a massive opportunity for the future.
Electrification and being eco-friendly has got to come into rallying. It will be here in the future, and it might well be the saviour of a lot of what we do, especially if we're at the forefront of it, to be seen to be environmentally friendly. There'll certainly be a tipping point where we need it. So, it's a really, really good, cool thing to do. And to be used as brand ambassadors and ambassadors for green energy is fantastic. I've got various electric trials bikes and things for kids' toys, really. But anything electric, I love it, because you do get the thrill and excitement, and you can promote yourself as a environmentally friendly platform, which from a sponsorship point of view alone opens up so many doors, because it's good to be involved. So, and it really suits you, Chris. It really suits, a young champion to be an ambassador for something that is clearly the future. So even if it's not this particular platform, I think you desperately need to be involved in something like that. And yeah, whatever you can push green issues is a perfect fit for you. So as far as I'm concerned, that's what you should be involved in and doing that. And it is exciting. Is that the sort of feedback you've been having, that nothing's easy to get sponsorship, but it must be refreshing to sponsors to hear that there's a green, friendly ambassadorship, to help save the environment? Is that the feedback you've been getting?
Yeah, definitely, Kevin. I think it's so sponsor friendly. It's basically going to be a huge media package. For example, they want both cars to be one male, one female driver. So it's obviously the PR is a really important thing for them. But I just hope that it's not all going to be about PR, and there's going to be some talent getting a chance as well, because you see a lot of these things come along and it's just PR. And I once got involved in a rallycross shootout and won it, but then they gave it to someone else because he had the right sponsor. So I just hope it's not another case of that, because that's quite frustrating for me at the moment, because what more can I do?
Yeah, well, for someone that's been there, and my strategy with this, the thing to do is to keep yourself in a position where you're still able and never give up. And Mark Higgins is a really good example of that, as we know. He's been through many low points. He's been super champion, winning more rallies than any other British driver. He's had all sorts of opportunities, but the biggest thing is he's stuck at it. And you're way too young to even have any doubt. From that point of view, Chris, you're only starting your career. You're starting with a great championship behind you and a proven track record, but you have nothing to worry about. You're going to be in this game for a long time, a lot longer than you think. even I'm still driving, and that's another 30 years away. So, 4 years of competitive driving for you. You're just a boy. You're just an infant. Right. What we'll do with that, talking about classics, we'll now move into old people. and Charles is going to front this. I'm going to talk a little bit about auctions. It'd be nice if Chris could chip in with this. The one thing I know about Chris, and maybe I'll ask this question for him to tee it up, is what might be slightly unusual with Chris. He's got his dad, who's passionate about rallying, ex-rally driver, great driver, pain in the bum, but he's a great driver. And along with that history of his dad, he's followed cars from a very young age, so he does understand what Russell Brooks's mantra is, early Porsches. He's a fan of those classic cars. So I'll start this off, Chris, by asking you to look at what me and Charles are talking about and see what interests you from a youth point of view. But if you had a car that you could buy as a classic, as a bit of an investment, what car would you be buying now, Chris, that you think could make a good investment for the future?
Definitely a 911, an old 911 from Tuttill's. I think they're never going to get old, are they? And you could get away with driving it as an everyday car as well, probably.
Depends on your view of an everyday car. But the one thing on that as well, we'll just throw in, if we could have a ball to look into the future, would you buy your Skoda for your championship winning Skoda and hope that one day might appreciate in value? Would it be your dad's Focus? Would it have been a Subaru, in fact, any of your dad's cars, especially with the link to factory teams and famous drivers, would be worth more money now. So I bet he's cringing that he's sold a few. But yeah, what would you like to have kept hold of?
I think my dad's Focus was rallied by McRae. I think McRae won Acropolis or Cyprus in that car, so that would have been the one, definitely. I'm not sure about the Fabia because there's just so many R5 cars now. So I'm not sure if they'll all just depreciate forever, but that Focus, because of McRae's history in it, would have been the one, definitely.
Have you got a favourite car so far? You have driven a lot. You're the only kid in the world that's driven an old T16 and a new Peugeot T16. Manta 400 Group B cars. For some of your age, I don't believe there's anybody in the world that's driven more pedigree competition cars than you. Which one actually pulls on your heartstrings the most? Which have you actually felt, this is a lovely car?
Yours is a classic, but definitely the Fabia because of winning the championship in it and driving it. And it fits like a glove, do you know what I mean? And when you get that feeling, there's just nothing better. So, yeah, definitely the Fabia.
We're going to talk about auctions. It's never been done before, the way that we're going to do it. So could you give us an insight to what Silverstone Auctions are planning on Saturday as far as the auction is concerned? I can do some pull away, so I might bring the lots up on screen so we can talk about them. But actually, the first thing is, what is happening, and I should say that our intention is to share this with the world on Facebook. So the plan is we'll do a very similar thing to this on Saturday. We'll watch all the cars go through. We'll see my Peugeot T16 being auctioned and see what happens with it and have a little bit of fun. But this is unique. It's never been done before. What have you got planned?
It's obviously very new, but probably just a couple of minutes before I get into that, if I can just give you a little bit of my background. I'm very new to the auction scene. I've been with a company called Sherwood Restorations in Nottinghamshire for 23 years, buying and selling, retailing classic cars. The market has evolved and an opportunity came up for me to move to Silverstone at the beginning of this year, which I jumped at. It's a company I've followed for many years and known them since their inception. And Nick Whale, who owns the company, is heavily involved in rallying, road rallying and general racing. So his background is there with competition cars. And before I started with them, I was working at Race Retro, just purely to get a feel for the auction and how things ran. And this was obviously before all the virus thing came and locked us down. But just by chance, one guy was wandering around the auction room on that afternoon, and I happened to strike up a conversation with him. And that was Andy Medicott, who co-owns the car with Kevin. Instantly, I struck up a bond with him. I got on very, very well. He showed me the car, and it brought back many memories for me from standing many, many years ago at Woollerton Park when it was the Lombard RAC rally on the start and finish line, watching the Peugeots, the RS2000s, the Metros flying off from the start, and it really struck a chord. And when Andy said, would you be interested in selling the car? I said, yes. I didn't even work for Silverstone Auctions at that point, but I thought this is something I really want to do and want to get involved with. And over the next few days and few weeks, I struck up a deeper relationship with Andy and Kevin especially. And from that point, we've now moved on to where we are today. So I want to thank Kevin and Andy. Thank you very, very much for giving me the opportunity to do this. For my first auction to have consigned a car like that is a tick in the box and something that I'll be ever grateful for.
Thank you very much. Just to interrupt you there, to take us back slightly as well, is that because it took us to a point in time that's fantastic. So everything was going great, and we had a lot planned, and then the virus came in. So the traditional plan of we were going to take it to an auction, we knew exactly what we were doing. Now everything's changed. So at the moment, what did you do? You can take up the story from that point.
Totally changed, and the dilemma is, it's a big expense to put on an auction. We're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds. People think you sit there on the podium, you have all the guys there, the cars are rolled in, and the hammer goes down, and they're all sold. It's a lot more involved with that, with all the various aspects of what you have to do and getting the cars there, getting them consigned, and the whole process. It's not a simple thing to do. So when lockdown came, we decided we'd got the sale, which was planned for this coming weekend at the historic at Donington Park. That was backed by the Porsche Club. And when obviously that wasn't going to happen, we had to make a decision what we were going to do. And the powers that be, the guys that run Silverstone, decided that online was going to be the next thing. How do we do it? How do we make it work? And that's a big leap of faith, but it's worked. The cars, we hope to consign 60 cars. We've got 85 or 86, I think, going under the hammer on Saturday, which the Peugeot is the lead car and the star car of the whole show. But the interest that we have had is quite phenomenal. And I think we all thought at the time, is it going to work? Is it going to be a no-no and cause us serious problems? And will it ever turn around? The interest we're having means that over the last 2 weeks, we've been able to get all the cars in one location in the Midlands. We've invited interested clients to come and have a look at cars and inspect them at their leisure, which you can't normally do at a general auction. So over the last 2 weeks, we've been inundated with people wanting to come crawl all over cars, which has given them a greater confidence in the buying procedure. And hopefully, we don't know positively, but hopefully on Saturday, that is going to result in some serious results. Silverstone is all about best of breed cars. They've got to be right. They've got to be of the right quality and the right standard. I don't want to knock any of the other auction houses, and they all have their place in the business, but Silverstone is a very special place and a company I've followed for many years. And the quality is quite outstanding. When you walk into the facility we've got now and 80 odd cars are there all lined up, it brings a lump to your throat. They are history in front of you. And to think that I am a part and the team are a part of pushing those forward and finding them all new custodians is quite incredible. So yeah, we won't know till Saturday, but I think everything is looking positive, and fingers crossed we're going to get some serious results. So that's where we are, and hopefully it's going to work for us.
talk to us about some of the lots that you have available?
Some of them there are, those first lot on that page that Kevin's put up have come from a private collection. And the rest of the collection, these are 16 cars from one collection. These are just the first bunch that you can see there. There is another 100 that will be going under the hammer in July, purely for that collection. So most of those are without reserve, and there's a lot of interest, and a lot of those have sort of got commission bids already and will be sold on the day. As you move,
Charles, just to let you know, I'm back.
Okay.
I've got some volume. You can negotiate, tell me what to do on this page, so the guys can see various cars, and I can zoom into them. From everybody else in the committee's point of view, if you have any questions, let's just fire it out.
Well, if you just scroll down a bit, Kevin, that was the Land Rover Defender from Spectre. If you go the other way a little bit, there at the top, can you see that one? That is that was the one that was in Spectre. Very, very special car. You know, hopefully there's going to be a lot of interest in that, but there isn't going to be another on the market. So whether Mr. Higgins wants to get involved and put in his pension pot, we shall see. But it's one to put away, I think.
Very special car. And as far as bidding is concerned, what's the process? And can you tell me what time the auction will take place? And have people, what the typical bidder has done is been to see these cars, probably done a remote viewing, and then what actually happens on the day you register, you know, what happens?
Yeah, you have to register beforehand to bid on the day. It starts at 2 o'clock live on this coming Saturday, the 23rd. To bid, you need to go online, and I notice you've dropped it there with a nice Peugeot on the side, but you need to go online to register. There are 3 ways to bid. There is a commission bid, so you put in your top bid that you think you would like to pay up to. If you put in £50,000 for whatever the particular item is, if it only goes up to 40 and you're still at the top, then that will be yours. It doesn't mean by putting a commission bid, you're automatically going to pay the highest amount of money. So that's one option. The second is telephone. So you can register for a telephone bid, which means one of us will ring you 2 or 3 lots before your particular car comes live. We will talk you through the process and bid on your behalf via the telephone link. And then thirdly, there is online through Proxybid and the sales room, who are preferred partners of Silverstone Auctions. And you can then bid online and put in your bids as you wish. So there's 3 options there, especially for the nice T16, which keeps coming up quite appropriately.
Okay, I'm going to talk just a little bit on the T16 because I've done some very detailed videos. If anybody's got any questions, they're more than welcome to, to get involved. For me, we've got 2 points of view here. I'm selling it, I'm a seller. There's a lot of emotion and etc. involved in doing it. So I wanted it, I suppose, in a sense, to go to auction. So there was a bit of a distance between me and the buyer, and not because the main reason for that is because I would get too emotionally involved. And if I didn't like the buyer, I probably wouldn't give it to them. So it's like giving a child away to me. So I think to leave it to a professional to sell does help me, sell the car. Otherwise, I may never give it away. I guess every owner has that type of backstory, but I'll just talk a little bit about the Peugeot. I mean, how's the interest going? And yeah, we clearly can't say too much, but I've had inquiries. People have contacted me from all over the world. I put them on to you. But what type of person have we got any clues who might be interested in it?
I don't think to the day you will sort of categorize people and say there are specific people who are interested. It's quite interesting. I've had 1 or 2 people that have come and looked at the car and had private viewings, from one guy who is bidding remotely on behalf of someone or one of his clients abroad, and who that will be, I shall probably never find out. And that's happened to me on many occasions over the years, where I will get a man who will come in and want to buy something, but I will never get to know who the end user is. That does happen. And it may then go into a private collection or whatever. To someone who came yesterday, who was a young lad, and I say young, probably doing myself a disfavour here, but he was young. I won't mention any names or whatever, but I'm not sure where he's got his money from, but a massive collection of cars. And he is seriously, seriously keen. And he's registered to bid on Saturday. What his bid will be or where that will go to, no one knows. But you can't categorise who will bid on these sorts of cars. And from what I said earlier, my memories of seeing these at Woollerton Park in Nottingham fly off the start and finish line is something I will never forget. And I'm sure that resonates with a lot of people who are probably watching this broadcast tonight, and probably the guys I'm involved with and having a chat with here with you, Kevin. So once it's in your blood and in your system, it's there forever. And you know, that is the same with me and the motor trade. It's something I've grown up with through my father, and something I've done forever. And it's something you don't forget. So who will bid on the day and who will be the proud new owner? You know, we don't know. We can't foresee. Will it
final question? A final question on that is, do you think COVID-19, that's the big topic that friends say to me, oh, is it a good time to sell? Is it not? As far as the overall stock is concerned, how are other sellers taking on board the idea that it's an online sale and it's not a traditional auction where you're bidding in the room?
I think other auction houses are trying it as and it's new to everyone. It's new to us. Silverstone, and I'm saying it from probably an outsider because I'm very new to them, but they are very, very professional in the way they do everything and how they present themselves and how everything is done from start to finish, from us talking to clients who want to consign cars to the end process of the buyer coming to collect it. It is incredibly professional and a pleasure to be involved with them. Will it work? I think it will. There's no real difference to the auction process apart from you can't be there physically on the day. To some people, that is part of the buying, that they want to get involved and feel the atmosphere, and having put their hand up, drinking a bit too much champagne and bidding too much and waking up the next morning and think, bloody hell, what have I got in the garage? To other people who are quite happy not to be there because they like the anonymous side of it and don't want people to know what they're doing. And that is probably the bonus for us at the moment, but it definitely seems to be working and proving more positive than I think anyone could have thought. And that is probably progress within this virus that we've become associated with and made something that will change forever. You know, hopefully we'll get back to having some normal auctions, but I think online auctions are going to be there to stay in one format or another.
Fantastic. Whilst we're on this subject, Tim or boys, have we any questions about auctions at all? Caught them all by surprise there.
You did catch us by surprise there. We're all muted, keeping nice and quiet in the background, just listening to what was going on. Thank you, Charles, for that. It's quite a good insight into auctions and what's going on with the Silverstone auction at the weekend. Yeah, it's opened my eyes a little bit. A couple of little cars there on the lots that I was flicking through. There's obviously a Sierra Cosworth there, which looks like, I think it was a blind find, I think I saw it said. And that's obviously was a big iconic rally car in its days as well. So, you know, I think there was an M3 in there as well. So again, another massive iconic rally car. So, you know, there are some, albeit they're only road versions, but the homologated ones. So tell me a little bit about those. What's the history behind that?
We've consigned all sorts of things. Obviously, we never know what we're going to get offered. And that is the beauty of it, that, you know, you're dealing with something new every day. Every time the phone rings, something new is being offered. We've got several cars from JK, from Jamiroquai, who's a big client of ours. One car is an M3 that he has just done a big rally in Mallorca in, that he's moving on. There's various other cars of his, and he's very fastidious. The quality of his cars is incredible. And again, do you say people will buy them because they're JKs, or people will buy them because of the quality? I think there's an added attraction because his name is associated with them, but the quality does mean that they do sell and sell extremely well. So that's a very nice relationship to have. And that goes for all the other cars. It doesn't matter really whether they're famous or not. We've got cars in there with no reserve that might fetch £4,000 or £5,000. We've got cars in there that are £250,000 or more. And the diversification is quite incredible and very, very interesting. If you're a petrol head, it's a place to be. It really is. It's a lovely environment to be involved in. So
well, I'm certainly looking forward to the auction on Saturday. From that point of view, it'd be interesting to watch. I've been involved with cars for many years. I've been involved with car sales as well. So, I mean, for me, a car auction as such, but of this quality and this caliber, it'll be really interesting to see the price of things and what happens with them. Just a funny story back to JK there, to be honest. He did bring one of his Porsches to Race Retro one year, quite a few years ago, actually, when we used the other stage, and Voldegard drove it for him. I think it was. Michael can help and correct me on that, but I think it was Voldegard drove it for him and managed to bend it on the way around.
Oh dear!
Put some damage on it. Yeah. At which point he didn't take the car home, but JK soon vanished and went home himself because he didn't want to watch anymore.
It was probably rolled into the auction and sold.
I think that was about 2012, if I remember rightly.
It was a long time ago, yeah, and it was an original car, a beautiful car, and he didn't do a great deal of damage at all. It was just a little wing or something. It was something a bit
tap,
of a thing, but,
yeah,
a little love tap. But yeah, it was great. It was great to see the quality of cars. And I mean, this is where I'm going with the T16 and things. These cars on a demonstration will, you know, some of the certainly the rally versions will come out and demonstrate with us, or even road versions can still come out and sort of statically display with us in the group. And hopefully that, you know, whoever buys these cars will still have the invite from group and other groups as well to come out and display the cars and use and create, you know, an environment where they can come and use and have some fun in it. Whether the price of these vehicles have got to a point where it becomes not cost effective to use them, I don't know, but hopefully the invitation goes out to whoever does buy the car. They're obviously very
that's something we've definitely pushed. And Kevin has been kind enough to say that, you know, if whoever buys it wants tutoring or an ongoing relationship, the offer is there. And I know rallying with Group B has been a big part of Kevin's life and Andy's life with the car. So it'd be nice for it to continue in that respect and for it to stay in the UK. But, you know, we shall see on Saturday whether that happens or not.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and to bring me in on that one, not just the T16, but as I'm sure people can bridge the gap between those two conversations. I think increasingly the cherished type special cars that we have, we all know the value of them, and it's going to be much more likely in the future that a bit like JK, these cars may be sold on and they need to be used in events. So as Race Retro is a prime example where Silverstone are running an auction at the same time as Rallying with Group B are running a live performance stage. And I think those two things will marry together a little bit more next time on whatever events we happen to coincide on, because our type of club cars are definitely going to end up in the auction more often. You've already sold an Audi Quattro this year that'd be perfect for the club events. obviously the T16, and even some of these barn finds. So I would say on every auction, you're going to probably be selling 10 rally type cars that could easily be associated with our display group. So it is really exciting for the future. Right, guys, unless we've got anything else to say. Jack, have we any internet stuff? Be doing well if somebody's still on there after an hour and 10 minutes.
No, not really. I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. Obviously, this is only our second episode, so we're we're always going to get bigger and better as we go on. But yeah, just a major thank you to the people that's commented, liked, shared it, and interacted. Thank you to everyone that's got involved with it.
Great. I'm going to let Charles probably say the final thing, but of course what we're doing is following the auction on Saturday, so we'll have something similar to this. We'll see with our man on the inside, which is Charles, is going to be live down there at the auction. What are you actually doing on the day, Charles? What's your job?
I shall probably have a phone in each hand, talking to lots of people around the world, and we shall see how it goes from there. It's going to be a long, long day. We tend to do about 20 cars an hour. So we've got probably the best part of 5 hours of running through cars from 2 o'clock. So it's going to be a long, long day, but I am really looking forward to it. And, the T16, as much as Kevin probably doesn't really want to sell it, if it goes, I shall be doing cartwheels and just thank everyone. And maybe next time you have this evening, maybe I'd like to get involved again and give you a rundown on the day and how it went. And even if it doesn't sell, it'd be nice to come back and chat to you all. It's been a very enjoyable evening, and thank you all for having me.
Well, just to finish off, thank you very much, Charles. Certainly for the compliments earlier about calling me a very young man, but you don't know where I got my money from. But that's because my numbers did come up on the lottery. So
you think you're young, Tim? Yeah, I'm not saying how old I am. I should be sat with my feet up, smoking a pipe. I can tell you, but I wouldn't. I enjoy cars too much, and I love it.
Thank you very much, Charles. We'd love to have you back.
Thank you, Tim.
The plans are to do this probably the first Tuesday every month. Rally with Group B is a national, dare I say, even an international organisation, and with many, many members. And other than sort of emails and communicating in that sort of way, and on events, we never really see our members from one event to the other. So we felt it was time, now the technology is about, to do this sort of virtual motor club, even if we only waffle on for an hour and people can do and text in, and friends and members of the group that want to chat and just listen to what we have to say about where we're going and what's happening, and what the next event's about, even if it's a debrief from the event we've just had. So it's something we're going to do on a regular basis, and we'll put various different slots in for people like yourself, and we're interested to talk about people's finds, born finds, and restorations of rally cars, and do a walkthrough of what's, how they found it and where they've gone with it. And so there's lots of different things we've got planned for it. But yeah, absolutely, we'd love to have you back.
Thank you, and thank you very, very much. I haven't got a rally car in the garage. I've got a Lambretta. So if you ever want to know about scooters, I'm your man.
All right, brilliant, guys. Thanks everybody for watching. Stay safe, and we'll see as many people as can do it on Saturday. So goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thank you.